available. So, for those who don't know us, I'm Dave Putz. I run JKP Holdings. I've been a note buyer for over a decade. I started as a hedge fund doing analysis and just looking at assets. Bought my first note in 2012, 2011, 2012-ish, and been buying notes ever since then. I've also gotten the field of buying seller finance, bank originated, so I have a very good handle on performing and non-performing notes. In 2021, me and Nathan started a podcast and a biweekly live webinar that we talk about note origination, note buying, both sides of it. We're actually doing one on Friday about AI. And I was a landlord before that, so I've kind of gone the gamut on everything else. Nathan, share a little about yourself, man.
Yeah, I got started. My introduction to notes was in 2008, and I started doing originations. And so I was creating notes back in the day without really knowing what I was doing. And so that's kind of what we're trying to help with here. Because when you first get started, maybe you don't know what you're doing, and that's fine. We all got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So since then, I stopped. By and large, I don't do very many originations anymore. I still do some every once in a while. But primarily I bought non-performing for a long, long time. And then now I'm more into buying performing notes. I'm a really big fan of seller finance notes. And it kind of feels like coming full circle for me, buying up stuff that I used to be creating back in the day. So we're here just to help make these the most attractive for us, so that we can pay you the most money for them.
So it was one of the questions we had last. Do you have money right now to buy? Yes.
Yeah.
We can buy your notes, right?
Yeah.
We can buy your assets. We can, I'll buy entire notes and partials, which we'll talk about. Nathan's more focused on buying the entire note.
Just whole
But
notes. Yeah.
whatever works for you, and you're going to see some things. Again, I'd love to see in the chat some comments, questions, all that stuff, just so we know we're hitting the targets you're doing, that you're paying attention, and then we're spending our Tuesday night with you guys. All right. Cool deal. I see some more people registered and hopefully getting in real soon. So
Again,
without
let us
further
know where you're
ado,
from, where are you investing, how many notes have you done? Let us know
yeah,
just so we know who we're talking to here.
we've done one note, 5 notes. There you go, Jay. All right. So Jay should be an expert. He should be able to teach us a little bit here. I like that, Jay.
Yeah.
All right, Jay. So Jay, feel free to chime in there and comment as you feel needed. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see what we got going on here.
10 for Frank. Excellent.
Awesome, awesome.
New from San Diego. Perfect. That's good. So
Let's
some of
get you
this
originating new.
feel like it's a little bit over your head, and that's okay. If you've got other questions afterwards, we're more than happy to talk to you some more and
absolutely.
help you get going on this.
All right.
We've kind of crossed over into the
The dark side.
we used to create, and we still do some creation, but by and large, we're just looking to buying stuff that you guys are creating. So we've crossed over and we've become lazier, older. I don't know what, maybe both. But we're just looking at buying whatever you guys are making. So we want to make it help you
And I
make
do
them
see we have
the
a
best
special
possible.
guest. I won't call on you too much, Mark, but we'll keep you in the side in case we need you.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Seasoned, not old. Well said,
There you
Greg. I
go.
appreciate that.
Lazier, definitely.
Yes. So we want to break this down. I'm sure Mark, who's Armalo and an underwriter, can appreciate this webinar. I'm glad you're tuning, Mark. And so what we want to talk about today is how can you create notes so that note buyers like ourselves and our full tribe of people watching us on our podcasts and webinars can buy your notes at top dollar. Does that mean you guys are tricking us? No. Notes are bought in a certain way, right? Just like a house that is fixed up, looks great, is it sell better than a house that needs rehab, right?
Yeah.
A house that's in a great neighborhood is going to sell for more than a bad neighborhood. Same concepts, just teaching you what it looks like.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the first thing you want to talk about Mark, is the fact that if you're creating owner financed, meaning the borrower lives in the home, please feel free to put in the chat if you're creating owner finance notes and you've not use an RMLO, or you don't know what RMLO is, right? Please put that in chat. I would love to hear the feedback. And we're gonna open some wounds, I think, tonight. So when we talk about this stuff, when you have an owner finance note and you owner finance that borrower must have the ability to pay that loan. Has to have underwriting, and it has to go through a licensed RMLO in the state you reside in. They have to be licensed. And they have to have the ability to repay, which is based on a debt to income ratio. Okay? So make sure that you have that information available for you.
Sure, we're assuming you've done some kind of underwriting, which is great, but there are actual rules. There are actual guidelines that need to be followed. According to government, and say what you will about that, but it is what it is. So make sure you're going through the correct process, jumping through the right hoops.
Absolutely. So if you have a question about that, feel free to let us know. We definitely will do our best to kind of answer them. But that's the first thing we want to talk about, owner finance. So this situation is essential. If you have the ability to repay the borrower, you can make the payment, great. If you have not underwritten the borrower, that's a make or break right now in certain situations. In most situations, we need to go in there and fix it, meaning the borrower has to come back to the table and redo the documents, right? Because they have to have the ability to pay.
So it's likely that we can fix the problem, but it's something we're going to have to go and fix if it hasn't been done properly the first time. So it costs us time, it costs us money. Therefore, when we're purchasing that from you, we won't pay as much for something that has not gone through an RMLO. We'll pay you, in other words, we'll pay you more if you've used an RMLO when you originated that document.
Absolutely. So as we go along here, feel free to have any questions, let us know. So the next thing we talk about, and I'd love to hear this, how many people here have done subject-to or wraps? That is such a hot word right now. I get it. It's exciting. But a wrap note with, I call a third-party borrower, means that you took over someone else's loan, right? Versus the lender is the debt holder of the original debt. They're two different things. All right, Frank, you're doing a couple wraps right now. If you are subject to someone else's debt, I consider what we call a third-party borrower. Note buyers, primarily, most of us, will not buy a third-party borrower note without paying off the underlying lien. A wrap seller finance purchase with seller finance sale on a multi-home, yes. So understand the fact that if you are subject to someone else's debt, we will not buy that loan unless we can pay off the underlying debt. I know. The biggest thing we get back here is, but the numbers are so good. Why would you pay off 3% debt? Just understand the fact we won't. It's too much legal problems, issues. You can go back to our webinar we had with Jeff Watson. It is a problem, right? To transfer that power of attorney and everything else, it is too problematic. We're going to pay off that loan, that first lien, in our purchase process.
For us, it just keeps it so much cleaner. It's so much easier in case of default for the new borrower, in case of whatever, the bank coming and calling it due, in case of. If that underlying first is paid off, there's no more in case of. And so it makes it so much cleaner, so much easier for us. Most note buyers are going to insist on that. We're going to want to have that underlying first paid off.
So as we go down here, I made a little larger for those who may not be able to see as well as I can, right? So the next one we talk about is type of security. And this is mean the fact that a mortgage, what is the security behind, the instrument behind attaching the property, the lien on the accounting records? Are you doing mortgages, CFDs, or whatnot? I'd love for you in the chat to kind of share. What are you guys doing? Are you doing land contracts? Are you doing deed of trusts, mortgages? What are you doing in your business per se? Right? Right. So that's a big one right now is where are you and what are you doing with that? So land contracts are very popular for me. Yes, they're a very attractive feature for some note buyers. And you're going to find the difference between me and Nathan here, right? We're two different note buyers. I primarily don't want to buy land contracts. typically reminds me of houses. Most land contracts are out properties below 50 grand. But there are some land contracts above it. Primarily, a lot of them are, they're made because it's too difficult to get the borrower in a deed of trust and all that stuff. It just,
Yeah.
for me, it's just not comfortable. I see Jay does deed of trust. So remember, the note is one piece, and then security is the second piece, right? The IOU is the note. The deed of trust is a mortgage, deed of trust, land contract, lease option, the security instrument to the county. So the note is separate. Everything's done by a promissory note, right? The IOU. But
And it also depends on the state. Like, for example, Frank, you were saying like land contracts, that's great. However, you also said you're in New Jersey and New York. Not great.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of states that, and Florida, there's another one. They do not, there's no advantage. We're fast forwarding a little bit. Let's say there's a default and we need to go through a foreclosure process. In New Jersey, New York, Florida, there's no advantage to it being a contract for deed. They will
Yep.
treat it as if it's a mortgage. So you might as well do a mortgage. It's cleaner, it's easier. The judge knows what he's looking at, or she's looking at when she's looking at that document, versus a contract for deed that state doesn't recognize. So
Yeah.
Pennsylvania is another one. Those are all great, and I'm a big fan of those places. Or actually, Pennsylvania, I think, does do contracts for deed. But my point
Spring
is,
City
sure you
does
know what's-
Michigan.
Right.
Michigan's very popular for land contracts,
Yeah.
tons for deeds.
Make sure you know what state is okay with contracts for deed and which ones are not, first of all.
In certain states, if it's 5 years or 20% that's paid off, it converts over, like Ohio, Indiana, it converts over. So just be aware of those kind of things.
Yeah.
In our portal, we actually have a link to all the different states out there, but just understand that point. So for me, a contract of deed, I have to increase my return. Let's back up for just a second. I think we skipped ahead for a minute. So we want to talk real quick here.
Yeah.
When we look at notes, we're looking to get a 75% investment to value, right? So we want, if the property is worth 100 grand, our max investment to per value of property is going to be around 75%. Now, I'd love to see in the chat, how many people have heard note buyers buy based on what? What do you think note buyers buy based on? Put in the chat and I'll answer that question in a few seconds. Right? We also don't look at properties under 50,000. If the property value is under 50,000, I'm not interested. Doesn't mean I buy, if a note's at 9%, $9,000, I won't buy it. If that property worth 100 grand, I'll buy a $9,000 note, right?
Sure.
No problem. I just don't want to be in a spot where the house is worth 40 grand or 20 grand.
Yeah.
Right. It just doesn't work for me. Right.
And we've been there and we've done that, and that's why we don't do it anymore.
Yes. Yep. Yep. I started out there going, I'm not buying anything. Now I won't touch anything below it.
Yeah.
So I see value based on drive-by appraisal, desktop, or BPL. Based on whatever I feel the value is, right? It's a good question. It's I don't use BPOs. I don't trust BPOs. I think they're garbage. They're only used when I can't get any other good value. But those who did not respond, I'm disappointed, you guys. Even Randy, I see Randy jumping on here. So the biggest myth that note buyers buy is, I see Brian with the myth. Thank you, Brian. We never buy on percentage of UPB. Ever. Why is that? It's a subjective number that doesn't take any of the note numbers into account. We only buy on yield and IRR, right? It's what our annual return is. So Brian, if you have any question with that, let me know. I'll definitely tune into that. We don't buy on percent of UPB. I don't care what gurus and teachers say. That worked when things were really cheap. It was fake numbers. 2011, 2012, we're buying at 30 cents. So we can make up anything we want. Everything worked back then. Today, you're not buying at 60% of UPB or 70% of UPB because it just doesn't work anymore. Not a problem, Randy. So we look at the fact that we're buying on IRR or yield only, right? If it performs, great. If it defaults, we're going to get our money back in a foreclosure situation in a period of time. If we buy in percent of UPB, it removes the interest rate, which we'll get to in a minute. and a term, which are the two biggest factors in notes.
Yeah.
So a solid deal, we're looking at least 12% annual return right now. Could change a year from now. I'm gonna tell you, if we talked 3 years ago, I was shooting for 10.
Mhm.
Changed, right? Money is more expensive now. I can't, right now, 10% is not enough. Right? So use this idea of 12% to be your basis. That's the minimum we'll probably be into a deal we'll buy.
And
Typically, we
that,
want to
we'll
shoot
talk
for
about it in a second. That's getting into the numbers. We're going to put it into our calculator that's what we're looking for.
Yep,
I'm looking for somewhere between 12 and 15% yield.
yep,
So if you know how to do those numbers, you can pretty accurately guess what I would be willing to pay, everything else being equal.
yep. So we're shooting for that 12 to 15, right? And max 75% ITV. So one of the two numbers is going to come out, right? So another big point, if you guys don't know about this, the borrower should be paying your servicing fee and will allow us to buy for more money. We don't got to discount that at all. Okay, so that's a huge one. So we do have a fancy, I built this a while back. This gives you an idea of what the discount is on a 10% note, and we're buying at say 12, you're looking at 85%. If you wrote that note at 8%, we're gonna discount down to 71. I'll put this in the chat so those who want to check it out. I built it at a note. This distress DME last May while I was in my room between conference rooms. It's a conference that Nathan runs at the end of May. Encourage you guys to check it out down in Nashville at the end of May. If you have questions, please send a message to Nathan. He'll give you details about that.
Mhm.
So let's move on. We're gonna get to the fun stuff here. Note, so we talked about the fact that we're gonna increase, I increased my return by 2% if it's a CFD, right? And things like that. And then lease option at 3%. I'm gonna presume most of you guys aren't doing lease options. We don't see them as much as we used to or whatnot. Note numbers, these are crucial. It's like I'm plugging a sales pitch there. Crucial, but these are the keys, right? Some of the biggest factors of tonight. So we have certain things, right? So we're not doing off UPB, right? That's a question. What does UPB stand for? Unpaid principal balance. What is owed on the IOU? Right?
And if you're not familiar with that, then come talk to us and we'll teach you what that means.
Yes.
If you're using, for example, if you're treating your mortgage, your note like a rental, if you're using apartments.com or something like that, again, we need to have more of a conversation, but make sure you understand what that means and how that number is calculated, because we're looking at unpaid principal balance, and then we're doing a percentage of that along with or as part of all the other numbers in there as well. But make sure at the very least, you should understand what that number is and how that's calculated.
We're not buying at a percent of UPB, but it's a factor going in the fact of what we can collect on the debt, right? Over what period of time and what interest rate. So present value, these are financial calculator terms, right? PV. This is just the original balance of the note, right? This does not affect it. If it's a $30,000 UPB or $200,000 UPB, this doesn't affect it. This does not include down payment. So you have a property that you sold for 120,000, they put down 20 grand. Now the balance is 100. The original balance is 100,000, right? We'll get in down payment in a minute, but this is what it is. This starts your amortization schedule, right? This gives you a basis. And your payment, PMT, right? This is principal and interest only. This does not include tax insurance. Why is that? We don't get the tax insurance money. We only get the principal and interest. That money goes in escrow and the borrower gets that money paid to their insurance company or taxes.
Yeah. So the borrower will pay a PITI perhaps, but the servicer, and hopefully you're using a servicer, but the servicer will then separate out the taxes and insurance portion. That's held in escrow. We never see that money. That's not anything that we're ever going to collect. That's money that the borrower is having set aside in order to pay taxes and insurance. So it's really important that the only numbers that we're concerned about is that principal and interest, not the taxes and insurance.
Your note should have this separated. Make
Yes.
sure your documentation has PI fixed for life, right? Your principal and interest total payment is fixed, not the amount of each one, but the total payment. And your tax insurance, your T&I, is gonna have to be fluctuated throughout the course of the mortgage or the note because of the fact that taxes change and so insurance changes,
Right.
right? So this is a key item. Take notes. Term. This is how quickly we get our money back, right? The lower the term, the higher the monthly payment, but also the higher I can pay for it. So again, the lower the term, a 10-year term or 5-year term is better than a 30-year term. However, we know, Mark will tell you too, that it's hard to get a borrower to be able to afford a lower term. But the lower term is better. A key number we figured out is 25 years. Mark asks, how do you handle a sale with the 70% LTV first and 30 LTV second, 0 down payments, selling the only the first? We're gonna get into it, but
We'll get that.
70%,
a
we
good
talked about it
question.
before, right?
Yeah.
70-30 loans is really better than the 80-20, which is even better than 100%. And we talked about up here, if you can get down to a 70-30, that's better because we're looking for 75%, right? So if you quoted a note 100,000 and 170, 130, the max you can pay is 75, which is really good because we're gonna pay you closer to what we're gonna go up by the yield at that point. Right? So let's go, we're gonna get to that in a minute, yep. And so that these two number, this number here, the term, this big one, right? Balloon is
Mhm.
not really a factor, it's what's left over if you have a payment string, and whatnot. Interest rate, another key item. This is the annual interest you're making on the loan. As they pay down the principal, the next month is 1/12 of the interest rate, and that's supposed to be charged to you. This means the higher the interest rate, the more money the payment's gonna be, but also how much more we can pay it. Based on that yield chart, if you increase the yield of the note, you also increase how much we can pay for it. The discount will be less. As you can see, technically, if you wrote a 10 and I'm looking for a 10, I'm gonna pay par, which equals what the unpaid principal balance is. Okay. We talked about
That's an
using
important number.
100%.
So that interest rate is a very, very important number. Like Dave says, it's between that interest rate and the term. Anytime someone approaches me and says, "Hey, I've got a note for sale," great. What's the interest rate? That's the first number I want to know.
No, I
If
love
you
to
tell
see in
me
the
it's
chat. Put what interest rate you guys are creating your notes at.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, let's see.
put in your chat. What are you creating your loans at right now?
If your
Okay.
loan's at 5 or less, there's probably not going to be a deal there. If it's even 10, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Higher the better. If you can get 11, if you can get 12, again, that depends on how much the borrower can afford.
Yep.
But if you tell me it's going to be 5 or less, then we're just going to be too far apart. It's just not going to work.
Yep. Okay.
8
So
or
again,
9,
as you can see, if I'm shooting for a 13 and you
yeah,
guys rate it, say 9, expect the 72% of the $100,000 in this scenario here. So that's just a kind of a game plan, right? So if you can get that up higher, I do have some things that if you wrote a note at 6% and don't want to share any with anyone, there is a way to kind of swallow that a little bit. We'll talk about it in partials a little bit. So again, if you can go ahead and create an 80-20 note, meaning a first position and a second position, and sell the first and hold the second, golden handcuffs right there, right? Because then you're going to collect 10, 11, 12% on that second for the next 20 years or 25 years or whatever it is.
Mhm.
That's awesome for you. So I would encourage you guys to create piggyback loans, 80-20, 70-30. This does not change our price, but now we can buy that first lien at a better price because if we're buying 75, we're only 5% above this. We have to jump this down to 25%, right?
So going back to Mark's question, Dave, let's explore that a little bit because he's talking about doing a 70-30 with 0 down payment. Are you comfortable with something like that, buying the first?
So the down payment is something we want to shoot for about 10% down, just to show
Yeah,
the
me
fact
too.
the borrower has some kind of skin in the game. They've saved some money, they learned to do it,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, right?
They're in it a little bit more. That's
Just
a
a
little
little
bit
bit,
better.
right? I'm not looking for 20%. I'm looking for 10 just to have some kind of gain. 80-20 would show the terms mirror each other. It doesn't really matter, Greg, right? If you're going to keep the second, get as much you can. But if the borrower is your gamut there, you have to worry about how much they can afford. That's a key thing right there, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna definitely
Mark
open the mic for
asking.
questions a little bit. So we just want to get through everything. We appreciate
Yeah.
the interaction. So you're comfortable buying a note 0 down? Not really, Mark. Want
Yeah.
that 10%? Does your yield increase? It's more of a make or break, right? If the borrower puts 0 down, I don't know how much they're into the deal. It just doesn't make us feel comfortable. It's more of
Yeah.
a make or break, and you'll see this is all about make or break kind of stuff, as well as adjusting. So some things adjust our yield, some don't. So again, here's a quick guide, right? That kind of stuff, right? So property value location is another big one for us, right? This only affects the exit of a foreclosure. Some of you guys say, well, my loan's performing. Well, unless you're going to guarantee me performing note for the life of the note, I have to plan on worst case scenario, which is foreclosure.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, $50,000 property value, the minimum. My max is 300, Nathan's 200, but we're flexible.
Yeah.
Especially if it's in Texas. So property value, 100,000 or plus is better. 50 to 100 is, 100,000 plus is better, best. 50 to 100 is better. Under $50,000, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to even play with it.
No, it's just too low. And like we say there, like the foreclosure costs are the same as if the property is at $40,000 value or $100,000 value or $200,000 value or $1 million. That foreclosure is going to cost the same. Servicing costs the same. So it's just the expenses outweigh really the payment on a tiny loan like that. I've had it before where I had like a $250 payment. It was a tiny little loan, $250 payment. And that one I actually self-serviced it because the servicing fee was $30. And that becomes a pretty big chunk out of that $250 payment.
So Greg asked, you guys don't buy mortgage insurance like the biggies do. If you're originating it, I'm going to tell you, it never made it down to my desk where I can touch a loan with PMI.
Right.
It just doesn't, usually by the time I get to it, when we bought from banks, they've already touched it and used it. So yeah, we never really get involved in PMI. Good question though, Greg.
Not mortgage insurance, property insurance. Yes. And maybe that's a different class, but
yeah, mortgage insurance, we don't get much of that even thrown at us. So it'd be interesting if you're getting it and you're originating with PMI, that's really interesting. That's a cool concept.
Yeah.
So location, this is a make or break, does not change our discount at all. So because our bid is based on yield, it doesn't change it. So population, if you're creating a note in a city, the property resides in is less than 20,000 people, you must be just outside of a major city of a county with 100,000 plus. So if your city has 10,000, but you're just outside, we're okay with it. If the county has 40,000, you're in a 5,000, we're not going to get into it. We just don't feel we can resell that property if we need to.
Yeah.
Just not for us.
We're always going ahead and thinking, okay, what if I end up taking back this property and it's in some tiny little podunk town, there's just not a very strong real estate market, and I'm going to get stuck with that. I'm not going to be able to resell it. I might be able to do a seller finance deal, but it's just not something I'm interested in taking on.
This is a big one for you guys. And I feel that we see in our webinars that it's not talked about a lot. There are debt licenses. Even if you have a servicer in certain states, it's required to have a debt license, or it can be seen as a felony in certain states.
Yeah.
Georgia, Oregon, Washington, these are the couple of them, California, PA, Kentucky, Illinois. These states, you need to have a debt license. Even if you originated with someone else and you're collecting debt, you must have a debt license, a bond insurance. So presuming most of you guys probably never heard of that, because a lot of people who originate don't talk about debt license collection. So one thing we kind of are not excited by are some long foreclosure states. We're gonna buy them, but understand the fact that we're gonna price it really far, because if I'm buying in New Jersey, I know it's gonna be 18 months foreclosed. I gotta project out that my annual tax amount is gonna be really high, and I'm gonna have to pay that at the foreclosure auction. So I have to project out 18 months of holding costs, everything else, and make sure I get my discount enough to make it worthwhile, right?
Yeah, we had like this one in Connecticut. I had this one where found out the rule was, I mean, it's ridiculous. They want for everybody that's been in that chain of ownership of the node, they have to have every company has to have a representative in person in court, which is ridiculous when you look through that chain of assignments and then you get, two or three of them that don't even exist anymore. Those companies have gone bankrupt. They don't even exist. And there is a workaround, but it's not obvious. And you got to have the right attorney and all those things. It's just not very fun. It's not very exciting. So we're looking at that kind of thing as well.
So down payment we thought before is 10%. Seasoning. What is seasoning? If you created a note today and you want us to buy it today, tomorrow kind of thing, that means it's 0 months of seasoning. For me, it's a no. Right now, I'm not very attracted to zero seasoning. I know Mark's probably saying, Dave, I underwrite well. I get it. I want to make sure the borrower can make a payment or two, right? Nathan will buy at the table. He'll buy unseasoned stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I
That's
don't
not
mind.
a problem for him.
Yeah. And it's just difference of opinion and
Yep.
comfort level. And that's fine. But just know that there is a difference there.
For me, less than 3 months, I'm going to increase my yield desired by 2% because it's unseasoned.
And for me, I will buy table funding. Like I'll buy it fresh off the table if it's gone through an RMLO and I can see the underwriting and see that it's been done properly.
So next one we get into is type of property. I'd love to see in your chat. What are you guys creating your notes on? What are you guys doing? Land, mobile home, residential, commercial? What are you guys creating notes on? This will make or break for us, right? Land, we're not buying. Everything I don't want to hold. Okay. Land, raw land.
That's good.
Right? Raw land, single family. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, great.
I can't understand selling raw land. I'm a Jersey boy. I don't get it. Right? I know a lot of Texas, Arizona, all that stuff has this stuff. And if you're from California right now, hopefully the Niners lose. I can shave my beard off eventually. But mobile home, it depreciates in value. It's just something we can't get into. We can't buy that situation. So I see a couple people just joining in here. Feel free. There should be a button to hit to recheck it out. We'll hopefully cover a lot of stuff you're seeing. We've done a lot already. Feel free to put a question and put where you're investing in and how many notes you got going on, all that stuff. So we're just talking about making the note more attractive to us note buyers to buy. We have the capital to do it. So, what about mobile homes on land with permanent foundation title retired as real estate? Mobile homes to me still lose value. If it's 50, 60 years old, Jay, we can talk later. It's something I have a hard time being able to say, listen, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I would look at it, but honestly, I'm probably going to price that differently. I'm probably going to require a higher yield on that. If it's something that I'm interested in at all. I've done it before.
I bought
where
one.
I done it twice. The first time I learned about permanent foundation and so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So now I've got it. And then I did it again and it was in a different state and the rules were different.
Oh
and
yeah.
It wasn't what I thought it was. And so
Nevada.
Yeah. And so it's funky. So because it's funky, I'm going to adjust that pricing. We can have more of a conversation on that, but yeah.
So we're looking at the fact that LTV, this is loan to value, is your first lien, and then this is collected loan to value. It's your first plus your second, right? We are focused on the investment to value. Understand the fact that investment to value for us is 75%, $100,000 note. If you create a set, oh, combined, oh, I said collective, my bad, good catch, Mark. Good catch, Mark, appreciate it. I'm like, sounded weird, but save that.
So
All right.
on that combined, probably like it would, like, this is where it comes back to that down payment. So it'd have to be at least 90%. We want to see some kind of down payment on that just to show that, yes, they're really in on this.
Right, so if you create a second lien on a property, second note too. What we need to know is the first performing, we
Mhm.
need to know what the balance of first is, right, to even play with the second. For me, I'll buy seconds mostly performing as well as the first is performing, right? That's typically what I bought before Nathan as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would be, for myself, I'd have to buy both. I'd have to be buying the first and the second.
Yeah,
For
we
myself,
have a
I'm not
question
going to just buy a
from
second.
Randy. Kansas started, so Kansas I'm presuming you mean state of Kansas. I presume Kansas requires a debt license, so just, I think that's true. I have to look my notes. Started one, subject two into a wrap. We talked about subject two before, Randy. Subject twos, unless we can pay off that first underlying debt, we will not buy a wrap subject two. If you're subject to someone else's debt, right? We're actually go through a deal example in a few minutes. So if you're subject to someone else's debt, unless we pay off that underlying debt, we're not gonna buy it. It's too many headache. You can watch the video, our webinar with Jeff Watson, and we talked about that, right? So awesome. So monthly payment, this is a big one for us. If the monthly payment, if the borrower's paying it, we encourage you, make the borrower pay that underlying debt. If the lender, like Mark will do for you, is paying servicing. If I'm paying servicing fee, it has to monthly payment has to be above $300.
Yeah.
I can't buy a $150 a month payment and put out $30 a month, $20 a month for servicing fee. It's too high a percentage and it'll kill a deal. Okay. Make sure if you are using a servicer or if you're even touching apartments.com to do your stuff, that they have to be licensed in the state the property resides in to collect debt as a servicer. Okay. And you can check that out. I'll put in
They
notes.
should know that, and they should say no if you come to them with a note outside of something they're licensed in, someplace they're licensed in, but just be sure.
Yes. Last one you hit again is usury law. This is the max that a loan can be written up to in the state. How much you can charge interest in that state. It's state by state. Speak to RMLO. Here's a quick kind of chart for usury laws and things like that. Okay. So again, key points. We never buy a percent of UPB or BPO. We're bought off IRR or yield. Encourage you to get borrowers to pay servicing fee. Increase that interest rate. Lower the term if you can. Property value has to be above 50,000. Debt license. We will not buy. I won't buy in the state. I'm not licensed unless I'm buying a bunch of notes and I'm making enough money. Like Kentucky's a $4,000 a year bond cost. I'm not going to buy in Kentucky unless I have deals in there that make justified be spending $4,000 on something, right? Please, oh please, oh please, make sure your document's more than one page. I just saw one 2 years ago. I should email over to you. It was a page and a half. Please make sure the document is longer than a page and a half because there's so much stuff missing. This one actually had a note in there that said when the lender died, the debt is forgiven. How can I buy that note? Hopefully that person's not on the call. But if you are, I can't buy that note.
No.
Right? It doesn't work. Right? It just I can't do anything with that.
Yeah. So you can do that by going through an RMLO and they can point you in the right direction at the very least. They can tell you which attorney to go to write up the note. And if they don't do it themselves, but they'll have actual real documentation that you can use or point you to somebody that can do that for you. And I guarantee you it's going to be longer than a page or page and a half. It's going to be, 8, 9, 10 pages kind of thing.
Absolutely. So remember, if it's owner occupant, make sure you have underwriting, right? Maximum 75% investment to value of the property value, right? Encourage you to play with this. This doesn't have to be exactly 80, doesn't have to be exactly 75 or 70. Just break it up so make it easier that you can hold it back in and stuff, right? We're gonna shoot between 12 and 15. We're, right here's a partial 14%. City population 20, or just outside of a major city or anything. If we're paying servicing fee, I mean, it wasn't including your thing. $300 a month max, a minimum. Make sure you in your documents too that you separate your P and your T and I from your P and I. Make sure you
Mhm.
have a start date. Make sure you have like the interest rate. Make sure you have all those things in your document. We saw them recently that did not have those things.
And even better,
Yeah.
if when you're pitching the deal, send us that information. Tell us when was the beginning date, when was the last date paid, when's the next due date, what's the interest rate, like everything, all the numbers. That's what we want to be looking at.
Yeah. So remember the fact that we will not buy a third-party borrower where you don't own the underlying debt. There's another borrower there without paying the first off. We encourage you to find deals with equity with the wrap. If you wrapped a $100,000 note with a 175, that will work even better. Try not to buy deals where you're gonna wrap it for the same number and increase interest rate, such as I bought for 150, I'm gonna sell for 155 with a higher interest rate. We're not gonna be able to buy that.
No.
You're not gonna make any money. It's not there. Another little note, Texas wrap notes, second lien, borrower can't pay servicing fee if the interest rate is above 10%. Okay. What probably changes prices is the fact that if it's not arm load, right? The type of security instrument, if your numbers are off, right? That's a change. If your interest rate's too low, it's not gonna work. Seasoning, if it's for me,
Mhm.
Make or break monthly payment. Wrap note, that's a make or break. If we can't pay up the underlying first, I'm not gonna buy it. Land, mobile home, we're not gonna get into. Residential commercial, we will. Down payment, LTV, and all that good stuff. Right? So we're gonna open up for any Q&A please just raise your hand so we don't have everyone kind of commenting. If you have something, just raise your hand. We'll unmute you and allow you to jump on here. And we're gonna go through a little calculator that I created to kind of help you guys out.
And this is where if you've got a deal, if you're looking at something to see what we would pay for it, something like that, for
Yep.
sure.
Yep, absolutely.
out
This
the
is when we
numbers,
bring
let's-
some deals to the table.
Let's plug it in and see.
Yeah. Any questions so far? Feel free to raise your hand and I'll unmute you and go from there. If not, raise your hand. Let us know you have a deal numbers. Let's run some deals here. I know you guys got some deals. I see Jay and Greg and Frank. Even if you already done it, we're gonna show you what you can do, right? If you create a note where the deal numbers don't work, the alternative option is to create what they call partials, which means you create a note for 30 years, but you can't do anything because it's written at 7-8%. What do? Well, you can sell 24 months of payments for, just if we want 13-14%, you take the discount for the first just 24 months of payments and stop there, right? So awesome.
Jay's got his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay. You should unmute. There you go.
Yeah, I'll jump. If no one else has any numbers, I'm happy to jump in with some numbers.
Let's do it,
So-
Jay.
Yeah.
So this is one, it's actually closing tomorrow. So this is a note we're originating tomorrow. I've got pretty good underlying private finance. So this is just a wrap of private money that's in place for up to 4 years. But
Okay.
I guess what I'm curious here is if I give you the numbers, would you guys tell me basically what I'd be looking to do is in selling to you guys a partial that would pay off my private lender first of at least $100,000. And then I want to keep the rest of the payments.
So I would tell you that I would do partials. Nathan is not totally set up to do partials this time, but
No.
I'd like to say we're the only 2 note buyers in the world. We're not, but let's pretend we are because it's more fun that way, right?
Okay.
So let's look at the fact that if we were gonna buy the whole thing from you, right, get an idea what it looks at. What do you think the property value is?
Property value is 200,000.
200. All right.
Okay.
I would presume it's in a good city, its population's high, it's decent there, right?
Yeah, it's outside of the Spartanburg, South Carolina area.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And then you sold it for how much?
We sold the property for 200,000.
Awesome.
25,000 down. Owner
Good.
occupied.
Is it borrow occupied?
Yes.
Okay. Did you RMLO it?
Yes, we did.
Awesome. Is it a wrap note where there's an underlying, is it a wrap note?
Yes.
Okay. And did you wrap it with someone else's debt? Are you subject to someone else's debt?
We are wrapping someone else's debt.
Okay. So it is a third party borrower per se, right? There's a third person involved here.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to pay off that debt.
Yep. $100,000 is that debt.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, my son is calling me this one. Okay. So we have, how much stuff underlying?
100,000.
So we have to pay off the 100,000, right? Is it a mortgage via trust?
South Carolina is a mortgage state. Yep.
So mortgage via trust, okay. And then you're creating a first wrap kind of thing. Is it interest only payments? I presume no?
Fully amortized over 180 months.
All right.
Okay.
So, and who pays servicing fees?
The borrower pays the servicing fee.
That's
Nice.
Do you know when the first payment date is? We can just make it up.
It would be March 1st of this
Okay.
year.
Yeah, so the original balance is that, payment is that, and you said 180?
Correct. 180, 10%.
Okay. So we're looking at 1880.56. I presume no balloons.
Correct.
Next It would be floor one. That's not right. So this is gonna be the 175. Right. And then we're looking the fact that we're around 140, and that is based on the rate. So what we're looking at now is I have it set for a 14% interest rate or yield, right? So again, this is roundabout numbers, kind of a guide to go off of. So we're looking at the fact that we would be at 141, which would include this $100,000 debt, even though we're 175. What would
So
make
then-
this good?
So then Jay then gets to keep that $25,000 down payment
Yep.
plus plus that $40,000 difference there after paying off that underlying first. That's
Right.
pretty good.
Yep.
$65,000 in your pocket.
Yeah. I should add that to the calculator, it'd be even better. Right? So you look at the fact that now let's just for gamut, right? Let's see what happens if we made this a 12%. We're up already there, right? Again, that means the borrower would have to pay extra $300 a month. They may not be able to afford that. Right? So this is a roundabout number. Now, if I change this thing down to say 12%, whatever, you're gonna see the fact that that's the number gonna change as well. So depending on what yield interest rate we want, it changes, fluctuates, right? On the fact this is a $200,000 property, it's a nice size property. And if it's a good condition kind of thing, we're looking at that. So we're looking at the fact that we're at adding 2%, and that's probably because of the fact that it's unseasoned. Right? Because if this thing was, let's say this was started at 3/1/2023, and next payment is due is there, whatever, we're looking at a whole different thing because now we're back to a 12, and we can now get it higher.
Yeah, so it's capped out at the 75% loan to value.
Yeah, and
investment
because
value.
we added 2% simply because of the fact that it's unseasoned here.
Yeah, and I mean I'd be hanging on to this for a little bit, so it would definitely be seasoned, but
So-
okay.
Yeah. That gives you an idea. Like if I made this 0 for seasoning, it would change that kind of stuff. Right? Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I get it. That's why I keep as many of these things as I can.
Yeah, so I would create your 70-30, your 80-20s, and hold a second. Now, if
Yeah.
you want to sell partial, a quick partial kind of thing, right? You say, Dave, I just want to do that. So this works. You look sophisticated. This works same thing, right? We figure out the term. If you sold me 24 months, I can buy it. If we take that same yield number we have here, right? 39 grand. If we made this 14, which I'm buying partials on the first district between 13 and 14 right now. More 14 than else right now. So you're looking at 39,000 for 24 months. Now, if you made it 36 months and so on and so forth.
So do 60 months, do a 5-year partial, see if we can get up to his 100 grand. How long of a partial are you looking for, Dave?
I usually do 5 years, if not 10. So
Yeah.
if, let's say I go 120, I can just reverse it. I'm just this.
It'd be about 77 full payments to get to the 100K.
Yeah.
One. I1. $83.5 I got
All right, at 14%? Yeah,
at 14. Yep.
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So that's an idea, right? So listen, I just want to, you're going to take a small discount for less payments, right? Instead of taking a discount for the whole note, which is a bigger issue. Cool.
That's 7-year partial.
Yeah. Those are 10-year partial. Oh, this is, yeah, that's 7 years.
To get
yeah.
his 100, yeah.
Yep.
So,
So
yeah.
go 84, then that'll be just over that 100 grand. Yep.
Yeah. So that's another angle too, right? You just get your money back and now I'd pay you 100 grand, say, and it goes whole term, and then you're going to get the thing back at a certain dollar amount. I can figure it out, but you're going to get all these payments, and all of a sudden now you're basically out of the deal. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah,
Oh,
no
yeah.
problem, man. Hopefully it's helped you. Cool. So
Otherwise, if you're looking to sell the whole thing, that's something that I would be looking at for sure. That looks good
Yeah.
at 150.
I don't know if that number works for you,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's definitely optional.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Nathan, why don't you put your email in the chat for him in case he wants to reach out to you?
Sure. Yeah. And then Mark says he's got one.
Yeah.
ready.
I'll put my website in there for you guys if you want to listen. So where are you at, Mark?
I should do that. I should come up with a form.
Yeah, we get you.
Yeah.
You make a Google form.
Yeah.
Whoa, look at that, Mark. All
Power
right,
coming out
man.
of the top of my head.
It's that thought.
So
what's the numbers
I'd be
here?
interested in what you guys would be willing to pay for this deal that just came in our office. So I want to run it by you and just
Yeah.
curious how it compares against how I've analyzed it.
Okay.
So, well, it's probably going to fail right away. It's $140,000 sale.
So what's the property value, you think?
Well, I'm using the same 140.
140, okay. We'll say population is good. You sold for 140. What was down payment on it?
10,000. It's in Texas, by the way.
Texas, we like Texas. So the down payment's low,
Right.
right? So
$7%.
right.
Yeah, 7.14. Yeah.
Let's just put that away for aside for right now. Let's keep going,
Okay.
right?
All right.
Is it borrower occupied?
Yes.
Is it, I'm gonna presume Armalode. Is it a wrap note?
No.
Oh, okay. So we don't need to worry about the underlying debt. Awesome. And this is not needed. Okay. And then what kind of, is it a mortgage or land contract?
I haven't seen it yet, but I assume it's a
Do
deed
you
of trust.
trust mortgage? Okay.
Texas. Yeah. It should be a deed of trust.
Yep, that's right, Texas. All right. And then I presume it's not interest only?
Correct. It's not.
And who pays servicing fees?
Borrower.
Awesome. Are you originating that now?
No, it's an existing note that's come into our office,
All right, when was the
Okay.
first payment date, do you know?
June 1st of 23.
All right, and original balance is that, what's the term on it?
240 originally,
Okay.
And what's the interest rate?
10.
Okay. And what's the next due date?
I'm gonna assume I have written down on my notes here, next payment's 2/1.
I'm not sure what that.
That balance is not right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what the current balance is?
Yeah, 128, 222.60. Not quite. You got an extra 2 in there.
Yeah. I'm presuming this is not this. So we don't have any seasoning issues. We have net payment, which is great. We're around 100,000, and that's due to the rate.
And was that at 12% interest or 12% yield?
14. So if we made it 12. Right, all of a sudden, if I made it 12. It works, but it goes up to ITV.
Mhm.
So you would pay 105,000 based upon what?
On a 12%, right? So I'm right now, I'm not buying a 12, but let's say we go 14, right?
On that one's gonna be a little low, yeah. 14
It's
is more like it
we're
because of that
100,000.
down payment's a little weak.
So
Yeah.
you would pay 100,000, and who pays closing costs? Just out of curiosity.
Closing costs. What do you mean by your closing costs?
Well, there's transaction fees to get title insurance, and there's going to be some kind of fees to affect the sale.
So I think you're confusing, right? So the note I know what you're going towards. Your note is not created yet. You're looking for us to fund a note.
No. This
It's
is
an
an
existing
existing note, but in order to buy it from the holder, there's going to be a closing of some type. And we have to
No.
get title insurance, and there's going to be costs associated with the transaction to buy the note.
Nope.
Nope, you pay those?
No, so what we do is we order an ownership encumbrance, like a mini title. We go get a valuation. There's no closing, there's no attorney involved.
Well, okay, we do it a little differently, I guess, but we actually go to escrow and have it recorded and have the third-party escrow company disperse the funds, and
You
we get
could.
insurance and the whole bit, but you don't do that.
No, we
No,
don't even need
usually
the
no.
insurance. Because understand the fact when they originated the note, there's a title policy in the note in the beginning, right?
Yes,
So when they
but
originated,
it's not insuring you.
correct, but it ensures the fact that the title is clean. So what we do after that is we order what we call an O&E report, ownership and
Yeah.
encumbrance report. That O&E report then shows to see if there's any other liens or anything else going on the note. And we use that. Is it insured? It's not. However, we use that encumbrance with the title policy that last year on the date it was done, 6/1/2023. At that point, that policy is insured, right? From then to now, we just want to see if any other liens got added to it, what tax situation, what's going on in the county since that point. We don't care what happened before that. So I don't need to go pull a full title. I don't
Okay.
need any of that stuff.
Okay,
Now, can I use escrow? I could, but we typically don't.
all right, let me
At
ask another,
most-
let me throw twists on this deal. Let
Sure.
me find out how you would change it if it was a wrap, let's say. If there was an underlying lien, or and actually I'm looking at my notes, there might be on this one. So this might be a wrap now that I think about it.
You know
So
what
yeah,
is
62, I'm looking here down further in my notes, 62.5 is what it looks like there's an underlying lien.
Okay.
so we'd have to pay off, you're gonna get
You have to
less
pay
money,
that off.
right?
Yeah, you just have to pay that off. Okay.
Yeah, we would just pay it off part of this payment.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So what happens, let's say let's say somebody stuck a balloon payment in here in 5 years. How would that change the deal? Now, even
So-
though that may not be Dodd-Frank compliant, it's still, somebody signed a note saying I agreed to it.
Yeah.
So, how would you treat the buying of that note if it had a 5-year stop?
If it's something that doesn't get, if it's not something Dodd-Frank acceptable, we're gonna be kind of avoidance of it, because I don't wanna be in the spot where if I go to foreclosure, that judge throws it back in my face and says, this isn't complying with Dodd-Frank,
Right.
and I don't wanna deal with any kind of foreclosure problems, because in foreclosure, there's always problems. And I don't
Okay.
need to add to it, knowingly add to it.
Okay, what if it was not impounded? What if account servicing did not impound for taxes or insurance? Would that change the way you would look at this note?
No.
No, borrower is still responsible for paying that.
Okay. Well, if it was a manufactured home, what would you do?
I like manufactured homes.
Yeah, I'm okay with those.
Okay. I think that's actually different twists I wanted to throw at you. Oh,
Yeah.
partial. What if you were going to sell? So there's 230 months remaining on this deal right now, is the way I've calculated it.
Mhm.
Anyway. What if you were going to sell? What if you're going to buy 120 of them? What would you pay?
80
And what
grand,
yield-
just take it.
What would your yield requirement be?
It's still the 14, probably around 12 to 14. Understand right now, my passive money is getting 11 and a half. So I can go invest money passively at 11 and a half. So for me to take any risk, I have to be above 2% of that number.
Okay, so let me ask this question then. If you're looking at $140,000 house and you were going to buy the first 5 years of payments, your loan to value is going to be like 40% or something. So would that change your yield requirement because you're so much safer?
No,
That's a good question, and we've had that before, but the answer is no. It wouldn't actually change it.
Okay,
even though we have so much protection because I'm not entitled to that extra money.
Right.
If it forecloses that, if any time during that time foreclosure has to happen, there's still a balance of UPB that's still there.
no, it doesn't go to them though, it goes to you.
No, if in partial contracts, typically what happens is if you sell me $100,000 note and I buy 40,000 of it, and that foreclosure happens, you still collect your 60 grand that's owed to you.
That's not the way we do it.
Okay. You
We-
buy it.
We buy a partial, but we get a full assignment of the instrument.
Yes.
And if it pays off or forecloses during the period of time, we go back to the holder and say, well, not if it pays off, but if it's a foreclosure, we go back to the person who sold us the note and we
Mhm.
say, we're going to go into foreclosure here. You have a right to pay us off, or we're going to foreclose and wipe you out.
So that's interesting. Most of the contracts out there don't allow you to, most sellers who are smart
Well,
don't allow you. Right? We don't want to tell it to them, right? We would,
No,
I'd love to buy a note where you can, if it defaults, if I have to foreclose, I've tried that, where if I want to foreclose on it and you're not going to buy it off me, I'm taking the whole note from you.
that's right. And
Every
and
seller says
it's
no.
full disclosure. It's full disclosure. You're
Yeah.
assigning the entire note to me during the period of time in which I'm receiving those payments. And at the end of that time frame, you get the note back. And if there's a foreclosure during that period of time, you have the right to step in and pay me off whatever I'm owed at that time, and you get the note back. Or if you don't act, then I will foreclose and you don't get anything.
If
So
you
it's
can
a
give
full
me more
disclosure.
of those, I'll buy them all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's the
I
way
just-
we do ours.
Yeah, most sellers I've run to don't allow us to do that, but yeah, I'd buy them in a second. Those are awesome, right? Because of the fact that you can literally buy 20%, 30% and be killing it. Awesome.
So this
Well,
one, the monthly
they're safe.
payment.
That's why I asked the question about the yield, because if your loan to value drops dramatically because you bought a shorter term or a smaller amount, would your yield requirement drop because you're so much safer? So if you guys are holding fast to the yield requirement, it makes it more difficult to sell a small partial with that full assignment picture.
Yeah.
Yes, but the problem is I still need to return my money, right?
I got
Let's say the fact that it's a 5-year partial.
Yeah.
Right? I can't drop it to 11 because I could never justify getting 11% where I can go
Okay.
and buy a deal 11.5 and get a guarantee. So
I'd
yes,
like-
I get you.
I'd like that, by the way, I'd like some of that. I'd like you to refer that 11% money source to me because,
I don't know. Maybe I'll have to give it to you at 8% and I'll buy my own self 11.
okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. I'll take it. I'll take you
That's
can keep
awesome.
the spread.
You can
That was
definitely, if you want to stay on the screen, you're more than welcome to, Mark. Let me see if we can get any more deals. I see Jay.
So
would be-
just one point here,
Yeah.
that payment on the screen there, 1254, that's the current monthly payment.
Yep.
See, that's another one I'd be interested in buying as well. So,
Okay, I'll let you guys know.
all right, cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. So hold on if you want to. Jay asked the question, what would be a better scenario for the partial seller to protect his remaining interest in the event of foreclosure during the partial repayment period? Good question, Jay. And I see you, Randy. Yeah, we're definitely running through your deal for you. So, oh, go ahead, Mark. You have a point?
I have an answer to that.
All right,
Sure.
go ahead.
We create an amortization schedule specific to the transaction that we're buying. So there's a regular amortization schedule for the note overall, and then we create a separate amortization schedule that builds in our yield. And then if they pay it off in a partial pay down in 12 months, then we look at what the balance is on the amortization schedule for 12 months, and that's what we're entitled to receive. So that maintains our yield, and the rest of it would go back to the holder, to the other party that sold the note.
So this
So
is an
It's
idea.
a simple amortization schedule. It's a reverse amortization schedule, David. I know you like Excel spreadsheets.
So
it's-
just for example, what he's talking about is this kind of thing here, guys, right? So here's your borrower schedule. Okay. Here's a partial buyer schedule. Here's your seller schedule, A, B, and C to call them. So the fact is that this is the borrower, normal stuff. If I buy, say at month 157, a scenario, I'm gonna start collecting my money, right? I'm gonna get my principal insurance. If at any time this thing sells, property sells, the borrower pays off somehow, whatever, or defaults, I'm gonna get my 30 grand, I'm out. And you're gonna get your money, which is not right here because the number's 17. You're gonna get whatever's the difference between 30 and this number here, the balance of the note. Just because the numbers are wacky here, but you'd understand the fact you would, whatever my number is here, minus whatever's total UPB at that time is, would equal my part, whatever you would get. That make sense? So yeah, I'll buy partials. I would rather you pay me off if default happens, because I'm mostly gonna buy my partial with IRA money. My Roth IRA, I'm gonna buy that partial and go from there. And then in 3 years, if it defaults, you said, Dave, here's 30 grand, we're gonna take care of the foreclosure, or you're gonna fix the note up. I don't care what you do. You fix the note up and resell it to me, great.
Yeah.
All right, Randy, let's see you got, my man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good deal. So I'm glad I got on this call because we're about to execute the wrap
Okay.
in May, right? So I do want to give you a scenario because I'm in Kansas, so it's
Yeah.
good to hear. I might have to have we have to have a
That
bonding
Yep.
license, right? So that's perfect. It's good. I'm glad I'm on.
Yeah.
So let me give you the numbers so you guys will kind of understand where we at. Right now we have a tenant buyer. We did an option fee right now, but the down payment is going to be $15,000.
Okay,
first,
so
the
what's the
property
property value worth?
Property value is $295.
Okay. We're presuming it's in a
15,000.
good area, right?
Yeah, it's a military town, so yeah, Leavenworth.
Love it. Love military towns. Sold
Yeah,
price.
and it's a VA loan actually, and it's at 3.5%.
Okay.
We sold it.
Well, before we
sold
get
it-
there, so what is the current, what'd you sell the property for?
We're selling it for $303.
Right? What's down payment?
$15,000.
So we're low here.
A little
Yeah,
low here. Yep.
Pretty light there.
Um, You know,
Right.
what we was asking was 30, we was kind of running out of time. Now yeah, it's a whole nother story. That's why the tenant buyer's in there, but,
Okay,
um,
so
let's-
is it borrower occupied?
yes, it is. They're in there. They already made their first payment
Armalo?
and yeah, it will be Armalo. That's why I'm glad I'm on.
Yep, and
It
then
will be a wrap.
you're wrapping it
will-
with someone else's debt, right? You're.
Yep.
Okay, so what's the
Yep.
balance of their debt?
Their balance was 253. We bought it for, well, subject to, so 283, we put down 30, right?
Okay.
Yep.
So you took over their debt. Did they owe to their bank? What do they owe
To their bank was 253.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Is it land contract?
Yep. It's Kansas mortgage. Yep.
Mortgage, okay. First position, interest only,
Yep.
presuming no. Who pays servicing fees?
They will. Yep.
Awesome.
Everything's all baked in.
When's the first payment due?
They already made their first payment.
What month was the first payment?
But the month for the wrap will be in May. But
Okay, May,
um,
so, okay.
yeah, let's just do
your
May.
note is gonna be the wrap note,
yep, let's just do that.
all right?
Yep.
And then what's the term on your wrap note?
360. So 30 year. We're doing the 30
And
year.
interest rate?
9.5.
So there's that.
Yep, that's perfect. That's
There.
right where the payment
And
is
then
too.
the
Yep.
next due date's gonna be 6/1/2024. So
Yep.
this is the table, basically you wanna sell it as soon as it's created,
What?
right?
Really?
You're gonna sell it as soon as it's created,
Okay.
right? So I'm figuring out, it's around 120, so the balance note is gonna be at 288 number, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly where it's at.
we're looking at the fact that there's gonna be, this is actually 5/1, but it doesn't matter.
5-1.
So
Yeah.
we're having a hit
Well,
because of that one thing here, that the fact that it's a table funded. That,
Mhm.
Nathan, would you take your table funding?
On this one, actually, this is a little bit too big for me. I
Okay.
like smaller notes, but this is the
Yeah.
numbers are decent.
So we're
Yeah,
looking at the fact
Listen.
that this 9.5 hurts you a little bit, the longer term, hurts you a little bit, right? But I understand that's what the borrower can afford,
yeah.
right? So we're looking
So
at
a little bit-
221, a rough number. Again, this is rough numbers, guys. This
Sure.
doesn't, this is kind of a ballpark idea, 221, and that's based on the investment to value. But
Yeah.
this here is kind of hurtful, right?
Yeah.
Right? But 221 of that 288, and remember, 253 of it's gonna go to here.
Mhm.
So in
So-
turn, we can't buy it.
So you'd have
Okay.
to come up with the balance there, the other 30 grand.
Another bounce. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that might not be a deal for you because you'd have to come out of pocket to get that underlying first paid off.
Mhm.
Maybe it's worth it to you. I don't know, but
No,
you'd
I
have to
mean,
come
I
out
have
of
to. I think we'll have to obviously season it for a while before we start even looking at talking,
Sure.
because I'm not trying to sell it right at the table.
Yeah.
I guess we season it for a while before we even try to get that balance kind of paid down.
Mhm.
It'd be a lot. It's gonna take a
Yeah.
while for this payment to get down to
Yeah.
60 grand. Because remember, interest is first, then it's
Right.
principal, right? It's mostly interest. So you're better off because the fact there's not much margin between here and here. You only
Mhm.
got 35,000. It's not a lot here.
Right. What about would it be smart just to sell a partial or not?
So we couldn't buy the partial because there's an
Because
underlying.
that's right.
partner. We
Underlying
could
debt,
not
yeah.
because it transferring, it doesn't go cleanly,
Right.
right? This is a good kind of scenario for you to see logically what it looks like from a note
Yeah.
perspective. Guys, remember this too? We didn't talk about what kind of rehab you did. We didn't talk about what kind of fridge you put in. We didn't talk
Yeah,
about any of
none.
that stuff because none of that matters to us.
Yeah, none
I
of that
don't
matters. Yep.
care what fridge you put in, right? I don't care if it's a
Yeah.
Samsung washer. And I don't care what the borrower did for a living. Smart
So
man.
this
I
one's
don't.
probably better for you just to hang on to because, like you say, that underlying debt is really low interest. So this is probably one that you're better off hanging on to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean the cash flow on it. I mean, we're cash flowing like $1,000 a month.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just know the fact you're not gonna be able to sell it. That's the only thing.
Right. Yeah, no worries.
Really what
Yeah.
directions. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Mark asked a question. Would your else change if you buy a partial and not paying off? So the problem is, Mark, we can't with Randy's deal here, I couldn't buy the partial because then you transfer the lien over to my name. And we have a situation where we have a third party borrower, and if that thing goes to default, now I'm not dealing with Randy, I'm dealing with the underlying borrower's note who never gave me permission to own their debt, subject to debt. And there's a power of attorney missing from me to that underlying borrower, it becomes a headache. So no, we couldn't buy partial on it because of that underlying debt not being in Randy. If Randy was the underlying debt holder and there was no third party borrower, no, and he wasn't subject to someone else's debt, then yeah, we could. Right? That would work out.
If I refinance that out, which I don't think that would be smart, would that be smart enough for me to take over that?
It would be if you
Refund.
want to sell it, then we wouldn't have
Yeah.
to pay it off. In this
Right.
case, still, we only give you 221 for it,
Sure,
and you're still 31 grand in the hole.
absolutely.
Because of the
So
fact
if
that
you're cash flowing on this, I think you're better to hang on to
yeah.
it.
If you made it
Absolutely.
11 and a half,
Right.
it doesn't help because so that what's sticking this one is is ITV based. So this means the fact that we're looking at we're 75% of that value.
Okay.
Is this an easy chart to kind of look at?
Absolutely. Can we buy this from you? I'm looking at your.
We're trying to figure out how to do it on our website, but I haven't gone there yet. We're kind of
Okay.
putting these classes together. We're going to rerun this class on a regular basis for people. Because eventually I think it would be cool to have it on here. I just want to break it so that we can fix the little errors. So far, we're seeing no issue with it, but we want to see if we can break it and kind of play with it. But yeah, so this is a great idea. If
It's
you
a great
have
tool.
deals-
I mean, I'm a geek when it comes to this type of stuff. So
You're talking to geek number one right here.
there,
I'm
there we go.
a
So
spreadsheet crazy person. I
Love it.
build calculators for a living almost.
that's what I'm talking
Right.
about. I appreciate you
Right.
guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Hey,
no
you bet.
problem, Randy. Let's stay in touch. Does anyone else have a deal that we want to run through before we tune out here in about 8 minutes or so? Wow. Any other questions? I'm gonna unmute everyone in case you do want to. There we go. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a question, concern. We didn't hear from a lot of you guys out there. Either you're way confused because you haven't done this, or something else. Greg, did you have a question? Greg, you were on before.
Smitty
You have a
unmuted
question?
himself there for a minute.
No, I'm fine. I just pressed unmute when you all unmuted everything. I'm fine.
Okay, cool.
I'm enjoying everything, having fun.
Well,
All right,
awesome.
cool.
Greg, do you have a question? Because I know you were looking at deals and you were talking before about some stuff.
I just, quick question, David.
Yeah.
Is this recording going to be available?
Yeah, I'll make it available for you, Mark.
Okay. Thanks. I want to pass it on to my people in the office.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
Awesome.
if we create a note and we don't set up servicing with a third party, we just service it ourselves, would you guys still look at buying the note, but just there would just be a higher discount?
No, so let me ask you a better question. How are you servicing it? Are you using a yellow paper with like an envelope with numbers written on it?
No, I mean like mortgage
If you're
pro
using- yeah.
software and sending out
100%.
statements and and using a third party ACH and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. As long as you're not using a yellow pad or an envelope to write numbers down on. If you're
Oh,
even
no.
Yeah, even if you're using like a Excel spreadsheet, we can work with it as long as the borrower confirms the numbers.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Are you
Okay.
sending out monthly statements of borrowers?
Oh, absolutely. Right out of the software.
All right, cool.
Yeah, email or text or mail. I mean, whatever it is that, like, if they're just hell bent on one way of paying, but I'm really leaning into the ACH. I've already got that set up through Mortgage Pro or whatever it's called, Mortgage
Yeah.
Lender Pro, to just at the table, there's a disclosure that says, ABA number, routing number, and I know they can say no, but at
Mhm.
least firmly impress upon them, you're not renting this place. This is the real deal. We're not playing games here. I'm no different than Bank of America,
Yeah.
just kind of sort of give them that feeling.
Yes. Yeah,
Very
100%. Yeah, no problem with that. Do you have a deal we want to run through, or do you have any questions about what we got going on here?
No, I'm good. I'm just here to soak it up, man. Really, this
Yeah.
adds a whole nother weapon to the arsenal for me. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that we want to make sure we'll run this class more and more because I know a lot of note originators have a question about what note buyers buy at, and we're just trying to help you guys understand, because we want to buy more notes from
Yeah.
you guys, because bank notes are just sucking right now. The interest rate at 3% that was written for a couple of years hurts our yield. It doesn't work for us. We're trying to make that number work for you guys, and we encourage you guys, if you are in the Nashville area, again, come check out DME and NMA. It ran by Nathan. It's note buyers and note originators all in one room. It's a conference in Nashville for 2 days.
Yeah. let's
We're
do
there
some
for 3.
deals.
Wait. I live in Nashville. When's this happening? Where do I get the information?
So diversifiedmortgageexpo.com.
Let me hang on 1 second. Show me something
right.
on that screen. I'll be nailing that. I live like 20 minutes north of downtown.
Perfect.
So
Yeah.
diversified.
There it is.
There you go.
Diversifiedmortgageexpo.com. All the information is there. You can get your tickets. Yeah, we'd love to see you there.
I can't believe you guys just dropped that golden gem, baby. Awesome. Thanks, man.
I'll put in the chat as well. Nathan and his wife run it. I will be there as well, helping him run it. It is last year was an amazing event. It was the first time we brought people from your space in,
Yeah.
and we had deals happening Nathan had deals happening over the weekend at the conference, which was amazing
It was
because
great.
we go to no conference all the time, and that never happens, ever happens.
Wow.
It was
Killer.
great. So yeah, we're really looking forward to this next one. It's gonna be great.
Good deal. Thank you.
Let's get some more
gentlemen.
deals done. It's gonna be fun.
I need to talk to more sellers. That's my primary thing right now. And
Perfect.
the phone's ringing, just not every single day, but it's getting there.
Good. Very good.
Any other question before we let everyone go?
That might be
No.
it. That's good.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mark. If you have questions, this sheet, are you done with the calculator sheets? This thing here, you talking about, Randy? No?
No, the sheet that you had up that was kind of laying out what your criteria is in terms of buying.
Oh, this thing here, this document?
Yeah, the document, yeah.
I can give view access. I think I have it right here. Just because we edit it, we add things, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, don't change anything.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
guys, so.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
pleasure.
man,
Congrats.
we appreciate you guys. We want to make sure we help you guys out. We encourage you also to share this with other people, this call, that if they're interested in learning some legit stuff, to have them join our call next time.
And
We
bring
run
your
this,
deals.
it's another run by myself. Most of them I run it with Nathan. We encourage you
Yeah.
to join every time and ask questions, and let's make things happen. Ask the scenarios. Let us help you out and grow what we're doing with other people who are in your space, so we can kind of network with.
Yeah, we
Alrighty,
want to get
guys.
to know your friends. Anybody who's creating notes, anybody who's
Yeah.
doing this, we want to know
Yeah.
who they are, that we want them to know who we are.
Yeah, let's become friends, right? Let's
Yeah.
make it happen. And do me again favor, guys. Got to root for against the 49ers. I can shave the beard off this weekend. But anyway, we also encourage you guys to join us on Friday. We're having our Friday live, 12 p.m. Eastern. We're talking note investing with an AI guy. So this guy knows everything about AI and everything else. And it's gonna be awesome. It's run by Facebook Live.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah, if you go to our Facebook page, or my Facebook page for that matter, and go to our events section, you're gonna see events, and I'll put this in the chat as well. Sean White is joining us. You can watch it live there. And it's gonna be really cool. 12 o'clock Eastern on Friday, live on Facebook and LinkedIn. We have a podcast, webinar, YouTube channel, all works, so please do that.
Yeah.
All righty. Awesome. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate your time, everyone. Have a great evening. Enjoy.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
You
You
got
bet.